Children, our today's topic is what is cellular respiration. See, respiration is a process which releases energy. Now this is happening inside the cells. So we will see the types of cellular respiration and how are we using it, how are we using that energy. Now we eat food, right? Why? To have energy. To work, to do certain activities, we need energy. For that we eat food when we are hungry. Okay, that food enters our stomach, that is digestive tract. There it gets digested, it gets broken down into small particles so that it is easy for the blood to absorb them. So small particles means they are nothing but vitamins, minerals, fats, carbohydrates, such. Water also gets absorbed. So the blood, so how is the blood, how are the nutrients from our stomach, that is from our digestive tract, entering our blood? Through the blood supply given to the digestive tract. Digestive tract is a part of our own body. So all the parts of our body have blood supply. So that is how. Now the blood again circulates everywhere, right? It goes to lungs to bring oxygen, and in the same way it is coming to stomach to take nutrients. Now these nutrients are supplied to each and every cell in our body. Now inside the cell, cellular respiration happens to give out energy. Now, so generally in the presence of oxygen we know, right? Lungs, they give us oxygen, it is carried by our blood to all the cells in our body. So in presence of oxygen, if our nutritive compounds are used and energy is produced, then that kind of cellular respiration is aerobic respiration, means oxygen is present to produce energy. So this is seen in higher life forms, plants and animals. Why they are higher life forms? Because they are more evolved. They evolved later when compared to primitive life forms. We believe in evolution, right? In the process of evolution, first there came microscopic organisms like amoeba, paramecium, bacteria. Later as slowly evolved plants and animals. They are higher life forms. They have many organs, organ systems. They are highly developed, sophisticated, right? So that is why plants and animals are higher life forms. In the presence of oxygen, their cells use the nutrition to produce energy. Okay. Now there is another type of cellular respiration which happens in the absence of oxygen. When oxygen is not available, then also something happens called as anaerobic, anaerobic respiration. So this is seen in primitive life forms, bacteria, certain fungi. So now here also whatever energy is released by those microscopic organisms comes through anaerobic respiration only. See, that is why even if there is no oxygen supply, we can't live, but certain bacteria, they can survive. How are they surviving? How are they breathing? How are they living? How are they getting energy? Through anaerobic cellular respiration. Now where is this happening? Where in the cell is this happening? I'm telling you that all this is happening inside the cell, but where inside the cell? See, now aerobic respiration, that is in presence of oxygen, this aerobic respiration, it happens in the cytoplasm, in the cell cytoplasm as well as in the cell nucleus. Cell is nothing but, see, this is a cell. Cell is a basic unit of life. It's okay, don't zoom it, keep it as, no need to zoom. Cell is the basic unit of life. If you take an institution, there is a separate particular room for every activity. There is an office for office work. There is a reception to receive the people who are coming. There are classrooms. There are auditorium for extracurricular activities. So, each specific activity is performed in a particular unit, particular room. In the same way, different types of cells, the cells of eye, they help in vision. The cells which are present in our vocal cords help me to talk. So, different activity, right? So, they provide energy for that organ. So, energy for that organ is supplied from the cells that are present in that organ, right? So, it is a basic unit of life. Now, if you take a bacterial cell, there is no separate nucleus, okay? The genetic material of bacteria, it floats freely in the cytoplasm, okay? But if you take the cell of a higher organism, they have a separate distinct nucleus inside which there is cytoplasm. Inside which there is genetic material. Now, cell is surrounded by cytoplasm, and here also it is surrounded by cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is common in both these cells, that is cells of a bacteria as well as higher organisms. Higher organisms means plant cell, animal cell. But the basic difference is there is no separate nucleus. Here there is a separate nucleus, okay? Now, there is a special term to call them. If it is this, we call it as prokaryotic cell. Means pro means primitive, early form, which came in the beginning, which evolved in the beginning, okay? So, prokaryotic means nucleus. The actual meaning of this karyo is a nut, basically. How is a nut? It is an enclosed structure, right? And it has a small nut is there within the shell. So, it is like that. Karyo, this karyo literally means a nut, okay? So, as it is like an enclosed structure which came in the beginning, it is called as prokaryotic. Now, here the cell of higher organisms is called as EU, same thing, karyotic, eukaryotic cell. U means true nucleus means what? The nucleus is clearly demarcated and it contains our genetic material, DNA, okay? So, these are the two important terms you have to know about higher and primitive life forms. Now, see, in the presence of oxygen, where is cellular respiration happening? Where is our aerobic respiration happening? Cytoplasm as well as nucleus. Now, here generally aerobic respiration happens in higher life forms. It will happen in higher life forms only because they can breathe oxygen. Animals can breathe oxygen, animals can take in oxygen, plants also can take in oxygen, right? So, oxygen is available, and so that is why aerobic respiration is happening in higher life forms. What are higher life forms called? Eukaryotes. What are eukaryotes having? A distinct nucleus. That is why aerobic respiration happens inside the nucleus as well as in the cytoplasm also. So, aerobic respiration, where is the location? Where is it happening? Aerobic cellular respiration takes place in the cytoplasm and also inside the nucleus. Now, where is anaerobic respiration happening? What is there? What is there for prokaryotic cell? Okay, first let me tell you. Anaerobic respiration is seen in primitive life forms. Primitive life forms means prokaryotes. So prokaryotes, they don't have a separate nucleus, no nucleus, but the genetic material is freely floating in the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a fluid like structure, viscous structure. Now, so as there is no nucleus in the cytoplasm only, this anaerobic cellular respiration happens in primitive life forms like bacteria, yeast, etc. Now, so what is this term mitochondria? Why did I write it under aerobic respiration? Mitochondria is a cell organelle, N-E-L-L-E, organelle. It is different from organ, right? Small structures which are present inside the cell to perform a particular function are called as cell organelles. These are present inside the cell. Here in eukaryotic cell, it has cell organelles like mitochondria. Okay. Why? What is the function of mitochondria? To store energy. See, why is this respiration happening? What is the use of respiration? Basically to produce energy or to release energy. Now, in higher life forms, that is in eukaryotes, that energy can be stored. Okay. If we eat one day and if we starve for the other day, next day if we do not eat, are we dying immediately? No. A body is capable of living, right? Means what is happening basically? Energy can be stored in our body, right? It can be stored as fat. In the cells, if you take, it can be stored as ATP. Now, the place, the location, the place inside which energy is stored is called as powerhouse of the cell. Okay. So, in our homes, at our homes, we use electricity. From where is it coming? It is being generated, no? It is being generated, and through current supply we are getting that energy. It gets generated in thermal power stations, let it be hydropower plant or thermal power plant. Okay, there is a place, special place. In the same way, here when the body, whenever it needs energy, we take it from our mitochondria. Means it is supplying the power, the energy. That is why we call mitochondria as powerhouse of the cell. Okay. Now, how is the energy being stored? Energy is of different types, right? Heat energy, light energy. Light is a form of energy, heat is a form of energy. Okay. So, in which form is it getting stored here? Chemical form, okay, like a chemical compound. What is the name of that chemical compound? ATP. ATP means A for adenosine, A for adenosine, T for tri, T-R-I, tri means 3, P for phosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. In that chemical form, our energy produced by the aerobic respiration is getting stored inside cell organelle called as mitochondria, which is present in the cytoplasm of eukaryotic cell, means cells of plants and animals, right? Now, let us see anaerobic respiration. See, the bacteria, yeast, these primitive microscopic organisms, they do not have a proper nucleus, only cytoplasm is there in which the genetic material is freely flowing. So, in that cytoplasm only anaerobic cellular respiration happens and energy is released. So, this is what. So, these do not have mitochondria, so they cannot store their energy. No mitochondria, no ATP in anaerobic respiration. Bacteria, these cannot store their energy, right? Now, see, the food we are eating, it gets converted to ultimately glucose, right? Not in one single step, but in small steps, in a number of steps. Finally, what we get is glucose. See, when you are not able to eat, when you are not healthy enough to even eat your food, then what are you provided with? You are given glucose drink, right? You are offered glucose to drink it and have some energy, at least to get up and sit down or to open your eyes or to talk something. So, from where are you getting energy? Glucose, right? But when we are in a healthy state, when we are normal, we eat our food gets broken down into finally into glucose. So, this glucose again it is oxidized to finally give us our energy we need. See, how is that happening? Glucose, it oxidizes into pyruvic acid. Glucose oxidizes into pyruvic acid. Now, pyruvic acid later gets converted to release energy, right? Excuse me. Now, from food to glucose is a common step. Now, how? Yeah, from food gets converted to glucose, glucose gets converted to pyruvic acid, that is a common step. From pyruvic acid, we have to know how energy is produced in aerobic and how it is produced in anaerobic, right? In aerobic respiration, this pyruvic acid gets oxidized, means it reacts with oxygen. Oxygen is present no in aerobic respiration. So, pyruvic acid, yeah, from where is pyruvic acid produced? Breakdown of glucose. From where is glucose produced? Breakdown of food we eat. So, this pyruvic acid reacts with oxygen to produce water and energy. In that process, this CO2 is released. Now, what happens to that CO2? I have told you, we take in oxygen, we release out CO2, right? From where is CO2 coming? Now you have understood, okay? From our body cells only. In the process of using oxygen to produce energy, these are byproducts, these are being produced. CO2 we release outside, water also. See, sweat or else urine or else the waste material, our excreta, they all contain water. From where is that water coming? Through the cell processes only. The water which we are drinking, that pure water, the body uses it, and in the process of releasing energy, again it releases water and CO2. Now, ATP, we already know, adenosine triphosphate energy currency. In higher organisms, ATP gets stored in mitochondria cell organelle. So, why this arrow mark is pointed up? What is the reason? In aerobic respiration, when oxygen is present, there is release of more energy. More energy is released in aerobic respiration when compared to that of anaerobic respiration. Okay? That is why ATP higher, more amount of energy is produced. Now, let us see anaerobic respiration, absence of oxygen. So, here there is no oxygen. Now, what happens to the pyruvic acid? It does not react with any oxygen now. It just gets converted to this or this, either ethanol. If it is a bacteria, pyruvic acid gets converted to lactic acid. If it is an yeast, yeast is also a microscopic primitive life form, yeast. If it is an yeast, pyruvic acid gets converted to ethanol, no oxidation here, okay, ethanol. and also energy is also released. But see the arrow mark, very less amount of energy is released here. Now let's see about ATP. ATP is a chemical form of energy. From one ATP molecule, 7,200 calories of energy is produced, 7200. So a lot of energy is produced from one ATP. Now I have mentioned yeast to you. What is yeast? Is it of any use to us? Yes. If you prepare dough for your breakfast, let it be for dosa or idli, even or chapati, if you mix the dough and if you just close the lid so that there is no oxygen, after some time later, what happens? This anaerobic respiration happens, and then these lactic acid and ethanol, such things are produced. Now I have talked about yeast. So if it's in case of yeast, not lactic acid but ethanol is produced. Let me tell you. Prokaryotes means bacteria, yeast and other things. Okay. Now we will talk about bacteria and yeast. Other many microscopic organisms can be included. This is a bacteria, yeast is a type of fungus. Okay. So if it is our breakfast doughs, dosa, idli or chapati, there is some bacterial content, right? That bacteria increases in number. And when we open the lid after some time, we get a kind of sour smell, some kind of smell which is characteristic to the process called as fermentation. Fermentation means anaerobic respiration that happens in the absence of oxygen. Both fermentation and anaerobic respiration are same. They happen in the absence of oxygen. So along with that smell, what happens? The dough, they will raise. No, if you mix that chapati dough, after some time it will become soft and it adds, the taste also adds up. Along with that, if you take idli and dosa dough, there are many useful probiotics, their number gets increased, right? So they are healthy for the body. They are nothing but the good bacteria in our body which supply us with certain vitamins like vitamin K. So their number gets increased in the process of fermentation. Why? Because good bacteria are also bacteria. Bacteria can breathe even in the absence of oxygen. Okay. So they breathe and they reproduce, they multiply in their numbers, and in that process they ferment the dough. They make it soft, tasty and healthy. So now that is about bacteria. Okay. In case of yeast, I can say if you go to bakery, so what is the baker doing? He will mix the dough taken from cereals like wheat or else from anything, maida, all purpose flour, they will mix it. He will mix it with sugar. So they will add a fungus called as yeast. Why? What is the purpose of yeast? If we add yeast and we close the lid, then yeast performs anaerobic respiration called as fermentation and releases ethanol. It releases ethanol. It will raise the dough. If you mix that the dough in a bakery and after some time if you see it, it will become double in size. Its size increases. It will be soft and fluffy, right? Because respiration happens, some gas also gets released along with ethanol, CO2 also is released. and so that dough, air gets incorporated into the dough. So, it becomes soft, fluffy, tasty and even healthy too. So, yeast in presence of sugar, when there is no oxygen, it performs fermentation, that is anaerobic respiration. So, these are the things about aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Now, if you take our human body only, while we are running, while we are involved in any strenuous exercise, marathon or else anything like that, when you run very fast, see, observe, you won't breathe while you are running, but when you stop, then you pant, right? You take in more and more oxygen faster, in a faster way. So, now while you are running, while all the way you are running, you are not taking in oxygen. Now, how are you breathing? Even in our body also anaerobic respiration happens, right? And there is release of lactic acid. Just like how bacteria releases lactic acid, in our body also, while we are involved in strenuous exercise, let it be that 5 or 10 minutes, there is anaerobic respiration, means we are respiring, the cells are respiring in the absence of oxygen. Muscle cells, our muscle cells, while we are performing physical activity, what is the tissue, what is the organ which is involved actively? Muscles only, no? So, inside the muscles anaerobic respiration happens while we are in strenuous exercise. Strenuous means a straining exercise. So, that gives out lactic acid, but after that little time, when we stop, again we take in oxygen, again the normal process, aerobic respiration happens. Now, see, that is why suddenly if you run or suddenly if you do any physical activity, if you are lifting any heavy weights, you experience a pain in your hands or feet or whatever. If you run, if you play shuttle suddenly or tennis, you have some muscle pain, right? Why is it? Because of accumulation of lactic acid. Okay. So, these are the instances where different types of respirations happen. The basic aim is to release some energy. If it is higher organisms, energy can be stored and used in the time of starvation, but if it is about primitive organisms, they can't store energy, so they use up their energy. There is no ATP and mitochondria in primitive life forms. So, these are the basic things about cellular respiration. Okay, another important point is, we know a fermented drink, there is something called as a fermented drink, right? Means with some fruits, with some cereals like barley, ragi, any cereal or any fruit, we just take it, we make it, we crush it, we make it into juice and we store it like that for days or years without any oxygen entering inside that container. We will close the lid. So, then what happens? They get broken down in the absence of oxygen only, means fermentation is happening there, right? So, that is why the drink is called as a fermented drink. So, where is it consumed? In cold places. In cold places, they consume it to have some heat in the body, to adjust to the cold climate there, right? But if we use such fermented drinks in an abusive form, if we use it unnecessarily, too much, then that causes a problem. Now, you have understood that I am talking about alcohol, right? Ethanol is a form of alcohol. It is a product which is released from fermentation, right? So, alcohol is always dangerous, but very, very moderate amounts are used in medicines. Okay. So, the process of producing alcohol also comes under anaerobic respiration. So, these are some practical things. I hope I am clear. The basic things you should remember is prokaryotes, eukaryotes. Prokaryotes means not plants and animals, bacteria, yeast, fungi, like that. Eukaryotes means we, human beings, other animals, plants. And other two terms are aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration in us, in human beings, plants. Anaerobic respiration in bacteria, yeast, and also ATP, about ATP and mitochondria. Okay. So, thank you children. We will again meet with a different topic in our next class.